Hello. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is built around contrasting pairs. There's winter and spring, Aslan and the witch, light and shadow, and the castle of Cair Paravel and the witch's castle. And you could say horror and joy, cruelty and grace. I talked about the opposition of light and darkness last week, and I thought I'd add to that by looking at the castles in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the waterfall in the last battle, and the difference between Cauldron Pool in the old Narnia and Cauldron Pool in the new Narnia, and what that means. But first of all, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. The witch is clothed ironically in purest white, but her castle, by contrast, is a very dark place because her heart and her magic are very dark, very evil. But almost always, Lewis pictures the castle of Cair Paravel washed with sunlight, the low, mellow gold of evening rays highlighting its windows and towers. It has all the warmth and beauty of everything that's good in Narnia, the goldenness of Aslan himself, you might say. When Peter first sees Cair Paravel on the distant seashore, as he looks out from the hill of the stone table, it's shining in the brilliant light of the setting sun, its windows sparkling so that he thinks it looks like a great, beautiful star on the shores of the eastern sea, facing out as it does towards Aslan's country and the emperor over the sea. For the four children, it marks the triumphant destination of the journey that they're on from the Lantern Waste, a journey which takes them via the hill of the stone table and all the awful and glorious things that happen there on their way to a kind of New Jerusalem. It's to be the central municipality of a harmonious and kindly kingdom, with everyone living in peace and joy throughout the golden age of High King Peter, and kind of representing the reign of goodness himself. The White Witch called herself the chatelaine of Cair Paravel in that note that she left at Mr. Tumnus's house after her minions had ransacked it. The thief comes to destroy, you see. But she never lived there during her rule. She preferred a much darker place away in the hills. And when Edmund first comes to the witch's castle, its sharply pointed towers cast strange, long shadows in the moonlight, making him afraid. The enemy always traffics in fear. They're not quite afraid enough to make him turn back, unfortunately. Its eerie courtyard and long, gloomy hall are filled with her victims, frozen in stone. Like a museum, Lucy says, when she and Susan are brought there by Aslan later. It's a dark, stifling, musty sort of place. And on the threshold of the main doorway lies this great wolf, Maugrim, captain of the secret police, for all the world like Cerberus guarding the way to hell. And of course the witch's castle is like hell. And here dwells the tyrannical, self-styled Queen of Narnia. And there's no music, only deadly silence. Silence that she's spread throughout the forest where everything's hushed out of fear. And Edmund is given bread and water because there's no rooms filled with Turkish delight as he'd been misinformed. But much later in the story, when Aslan arrives, the place is just set alive. And the windows and the doors are thrown open and the sweet spring air pours into all the dark and evil places. And it's soon filled with the joyous shouts and laughter of statues being set free and brought back to life, with all their extraordinary colours. And there's a moment of high symbolism when giant Rumblebuffin tears down the whole gatehouse so that through the gap, beyond that grim, lifeless stone court, a view across the Narnian landscapes opened up so that all the liberated creatures, no longer stone but warm flesh and bone, could look out at sun-drenched grassland and forest and dancing leaves and glittering streams and life. And beyond that, a sight so symbolic to Lewis, the blue hills in the distance. At Cair Paravel by the sea, then, the rightful kings and queens of Narnia are crowned to loud trumpet anthems, and the songs of mermen and mermaids float in through its wide-open doors. And its great hall has a roof of ivory, and the walls are decorated with brilliant peacock feathers, all light and colour, you see. And gifts are brought, and there's feasting and dancing and rejoicing, maybe a bit like Camelot. and a lot like the feasting in heaven at the end of the world when all harms at last are healed. And on that great day all heaven rejoices and stone hearts live again, and the great and holy castle of God, sparkling like a jasper stone, as it says in Revelation, clear as crystal, as pure gold, like unto clear glass, lit not with sunlight, but with the glory of God descending upon the earth. And meanwhile, the ups and downs of Cair Paravel in the later books parallel the ups and downs of Narnia itself. In Prince Caspian, it's fallen into ruin, but in the Silver Chair, it gleams again in the sweet light of sunset after it's been rebuilt by the righteous King Caspian X. In the last battle, it's been overrun by an enemy. But then one day in the new Narnia, Farsight the eagle farsightedly perceives the truth. There is a new Cair Paravel glistening on the eastern seaboard, never again to fall into neglect, never to be overthrown, always to shine in the sun. And then this Cauldron Pool. The chief sensory impressions that you get of Cauldron Pool at the beginning of the last battle of the cold and the thundering falls and the dangerously boiling waters, and there's absolutely no sense of colour or play of light in the description at all. Cauldron it is, indeed, and as apt a symbol as you could get, really, of the turmoil and the darkness into which Narnia has been plunged in the last battle. Trees are being felled, their spirits, the dryads, savagely slaughtered, and the free talking beasts of Narnia are enslaved and put to hard labour. Cair Paravel is overrun by Calamines. King Tyrion is ignominiously tied to a tree, and a false prophet rules from Lantern Waste in the shape of an ape. Narnia has been reduced to fear and cruelty and spiritual darkness. And a fair amount of the story takes place at night. And then in the final chapter, Farewell to Shadowlands, all that's changed. In the glorious new Narnia beyond the stable door, Cauldron Pool has become a place of joy and exhilaration as the travellers ascend the waterfall. And it's become, I think, a very apt symbol of how the new Narnia is different to the old. And Jill and the others find that they can swim and run and do impossible things without getting tired and without fear. Crazy, Eustace calls it. Wonderful, cries Lucy. Gloriously exciting, says Jill. And the great waterfall is now alive with light and colour, flashing like diamonds in some places and dark glassy green in others, rainbow-coloured streams with all kinds of reflected lights flashing at you from the water and all manner of coloured stones flashing through it till it seemed as if you were climbing up light itself. This is wild swimming like you've never known it. And it's crazy, wonderful, gloriously exciting. This redeemed world to look forward to. This is the third of a series on light in C.S. Lewis. So if you watch this far, for which I thank you, you might be interested in one of the other aspects of light in the stories, or why Lewis particularly liked the early morning light.